compared to the Chinese mainland, creating a dynamic and neutral platform for cross-border interactions that feels both secure and innovative. For instance, the South China Morning Post, where I worked for 26 years, including 4 as the editor-in-chief, is one of Asia's leading English language media organizations with a history over 120 years. Yet, even we still rely heavily on Western wire agencies for our Indian coverage, largely due to budget and resource constraints in these challenging times. But there are smarter and cost-effective paths forward for media from both nations to collaborate and craft our authentic voices on bilateral ties and our shared worldview. So here, I would like to propose several ideas. The one idea is that the media organization could partner to swap contents directly, perhaps sponsoring a dedicated channel or a page on each other's websites or social media platforms, blending our perspectives in real time. Another idea is to launch exchange programs to rotate journalists into each other's newsrooms for stints of a few months, immersing them in local beats and building empathy through shared bylines. And another idea is to host annual or regular journalists' dialogues right here in Hong Kong, where the one country, two system formula will make it far easier and more open for us to exchange ideas freely without the shadows of restriction. I think I'll stop here, and with deep appreciation for these reflections, and I eagerly look forward to hearing from our other distinguished panelists. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good. Thank you very much, Professor Xiaoming. Maybe we'll take you up on the next India-China communication dialogue to be in Hong Kong. We'll be talking to you soon. Carlos, you're here, AMIC as well. Our next speaker from India, Professor Biplab Loh Chowdhury. He's the chairman of the Indian Communication Congress and also a professor of journalism and development communication at Vishwa Bharati in Shantiniketan. Over to you, Professor Biplab. You may have to unmute your audio.
I have.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, no, the host is not allowing participants.
Yeah, it's okay now.
It's okay now? Fine. So, good afternoon to everyone in the panel. I have listened to 3 of you already, and it's indeed a great pleasure to be present in Indo-China Communication Dialogue panel. I have listened to the actionable points by Professor Wang also, and the context given by Professor Paddarani, and before that, Dr. Kolingo speaking out very openly regarding the Western way of looking into us and how it has influenced us. So now I'll look into some other points, because on these points I'm almost on the same approach with them. So what is the issue? You have already talked about the trust issue. See, we have seen that very easy Western way of looking into things, like different tracks of diplomacy, etc. When there was with Pakistan, from time to time, we talk about it, but are you able to listen to me? Okay. But then this track 2 is only possible when you have the track 1 taking a holistic approach. I belong to Vishwabharati, the Tagore's place, and Tagore established Vishwabharati, with which Chinese government also has a very good connection, and India government is one of the best places on the Chinese civilization area. What Tagore actually talked about, construction of a common Asian viewpoint. Without that, even if we have joint training, everything, nothing would actually happen. And there are many aspects of creating this joint Asian communication viewpoint, going through the two great unbroken civilizations. This world is very important. Unbroken civilizations. In this world, there are only two unbroken civilizations: Bharat and China. And have you observed that this civilizational space in the Southeast Asia, East Asia, the countries there, including Vietnam and few other countries, we are all able, China, Bharat, Vietnam, and some other countries, we are able to very quick look into how the Westerners had put their capitalism into work. And in that, what we have done, we were very successful. And as we are very successful, they are now feeling actually disgusted with us. So there are so many different questions of alliance, etc. So we are in a situation where we have shown that we are also very good in the Western way of doing things. But the point is not that. The point is how we can do it in our Asian way of thinking. I'll just elaborate on those points. I'll read from my small presentations, starting with first the civilizational question. India and China have at least 5 common questions in civilization. We have so far missed that bus. Tagore was understanding it, and many Chinese scholars understood it. But at that point of time, as because both India and China civilization is a socialist civilization, in the true sense of the society, where family, community, and society is the bulwark. So many of the Western educated, in reductionist approach educated intellectuals, they took to the West for either communism or capitalism. Because all these talk about both socialism, but in their own way, othering way, which is actually the post-colonial, and even the decolonial also actually talked in the othering way, if you look into the South American examples. Now let me come to what are these common points. What are the common points? Let us begin from the Rig Veda and the Suyuki. We had our scriptures, but these scriptures are not way of worshipping scriptures. These scriptures have more mundane family affairs, governance affairs in that. Only some part is spiritual. But that spiritual is to ensure that people, when they are in mundane affairs, they are related to each other, feel related to each other. So this is what both our civilizations had actually taught. Let me read from here. Oldest scriptures are more on mundane affairs in both countries. Ways of worshipping are the least, and spiritual as soul of the moral, ethical guiding mundane individual relationship and government matters. So we had that, but we have forgotten in the Western way of thinking. Now, how we can come out of that? For Chinese government, it is really nice that Confucius centers. But these Confucius centers, I'm afraid they are going in the reductionist way of looking into things, only for the great pride. No, pride will not do. The Eastern civilization has no pride. They have sublime pride. The sublimation of pride is our teaching. So, both civilizations have considered every affair with nature and human from the whole reality. This is very important. If our journalist has to succeed, to make both of our countries work together, they have to have the courage, and the governments have to have the courage to allow to show both sides of the story. Unfortunately, in the post-colonial and decolonial also, we need to show that we are actually very objective, but we are not objective. We are not very objective. The both civilizations, so this is the essence of their calm, considerate, non-pacifist stances for thousands of years. We have to understand, in 50 years, if we try to break it, following the other's way, we won't succeed at one point of time. Like in China, what is happening now? See, the trade is so much export-based, so it is going to taper down. So it's not sustainable, but we are a unbroken, sustainable civilization. So we have to think developing community from within, not from government side, from the community side. This is very important for both the countries because our civilization lies there. So this is the essence of their calm, considered non-pacifist stances for thousands of years. This needs to be restored by both sides internally so that the relationship sustainability, essence of rightful communication works well between the two. This is a very important point. Then second, let us understand instead religions both developed ways of being and becoming. The reason of their continuity in interconnectedness, exchange and cooperation mode. It continued till the othering-driven dominant thought process disrupted the same around the second half of last century. But before that, see, if you look into the Buddhism, the integration of Buddhism and Confucian approach and many other approach, Lao Tzu's approach, and then transferring that to Japan and other Eastern countries. So, and the Middle East countries also, Middle Asia countries also, we can understand the high impact of it. We only need to believe in it and we need to transform our education. I'm very happy. The government of India in 2020 had declared holistic approach to education because this is the crux of the problem. If China, if India cannot understand it from a holistic approach, in holistic approach, you have to take both the sides. You have to understand, you have to respect each other. And that cannot be, as Padharani told, by through a land, the POC, the sovereignty is with India. Notion of the sovereignty is with India. Through that, we need to change actually ourselves. We need to, on both sides, we need to change ourselves.
Wrap up, sir?
The third is China and Bharat both have a normal tendency for socialism. I have already talked. That's why you have gone in the way which to us seem to be socialist. But we have now understood that what actually that means. That is othering. Socialism cannot be othering. It can only for division of labor, but it cannot be for othering. And both the countries accorded very high place to family and social relationship, which is now breaking. We have to save our social relationships. We have to save our family. In what way we can do it? The innovative approach of both the countries' holistic civilization can bring a change in our thought process, the urbanistic cosmopolitan thought process, where, we are only consumerist people. We need to change that. So now what happened due to this social relationship case, our communication was very high in context. And if we look into, in both of our countries' communication, we have commonality between the two sides as the most important pivot. It's not my propaganda will win someone, or my persuasion will win someone. It's the argumentative tradition. In China also there was argumentative tradition. Shift from argumentative tradition needs to be how things can be done in different ways. We have to look into it, but not in the Western argumentative way.
Can we wrap up?
I'll just wrap up giving only 3 actionable points. One is holistic truth-based reporting modules are to be started with. This can be started from both sides in the government level. There are institutes. Second, the joint academic and industry program to construct Asian viewpoint for media and communication, not only industry, but also for public diplomacy. And the third is training jointly to journalists to apply such viewpoints and holistic truth-based reporting styles and formats. In India, in the Indian Communication Congress, we have started that work already. My colleague, Dr. Professor K.G. Suresh, is also a partner in that approach. So let me stop here. Thank you all for listening patiently.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor Bipla. So we can take up these issues later as well, hopefully if we have time. Now, next speaker is from China. Before I put her on, just a little bit anecdote about how I came to know her. About 3 years ago, a friend of mine, a Sri Lankan professor who has done his PhD in Wuhan University, told me that the development stories I write, the Chinese would love it. It fits in very well with the China's Global Development Initiative. And I had no idea about the Global Development Initiative, so I had a look at their website and I realized it fits in very well. So, he introduced me to Dr. Ji Lee at Wuhan University. And so I, in the course of few conversations, visit to Wuhan as well to address the conference, we came up with this project of SDG reporting. We have had 2 summer schools last year and this year. And now I will allow Professor Ji. She was very keen to come here for the conference in person, but she had to undergo some surgery, emergency surgery 3 weeks ago, so she cannot travel. So she sent me this video. So she's the she's the vice president of the China International Communication Association and also a professor of broadcasting and media development at Wuhan University. She's also the director and founder of the Environmental Science Communication Institute at Wuhan University.
To participate in AMIC conference in 2025. It's a great pity that I cannot come to visit India because of my personal health issue. Today, I'm going to present a speech on the use of Asia shaping the global narrative for a sustainable future. Why did we start this project? What brought us together here? For me, it's a quite lucky thing that I met Kalinga in Asia, and we have a lot of discussion about the future of Asia countries. And we have thought about those questions. What higher responsibility does global communication now carry, especially for the youth in Asian countries? And if we aim at cultivate future opinion leaders for a better Asian future, how can we change the current scenario that the media create more confrontation instead of cooperation, especially when we invited Klinger to write and give speeches to the students on mindful communication. We start to think that maybe we can work together on bringing a potential project for the youth in Asian countries, demonstrate to them that the shared future, that is President Xi Jinping's concept that provided to the whole world, is not just a slogan, but a deployable code. So we paid attention to the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And we thought, when we are talking about collaboration, talking about what we can do for the Asian countries, the experiences that we shared can actually work together with the UN SDGs. SDGs are a call for the action by all countries, promote prosperity while protecting the planet. They recognize that ending poverty must go hand in hand with strategies that build economic growth and address a range of social needs, including education, health, social protection, and job opportunities, while tackling climate change and environmental protection. I was working in the field of environmental communication and international communication in Asia, in China for more than 20 years. So my discussion with Kalinda for running these projects is always what the media can do. If we are not providing or bringing confrontation, how we can bring the concept of the shared future, the concept of keeping harmony between human beings and nature into our reporting, and make the future opinion leaders, our young journalists, reporters, feel confident that what they are going to write after their graduation can really benefit for the people living in Asian countries. We all have talked about that the economic development in countries, especially in very large or huge populated countries like India and China, means a lot because we are taking different model of development comparing to the Western countries. How to actually talk about these issues while paying attention to the real situation in both countries. We are running this Green Earth Communication Project, we call it, and the real name is the Global Communication and Sustainable Development. We are providing a platform for scholars and students to meet on this platform and discuss about the issues that I have just talked about. So since 2023, after my meeting with Klinger, we have decided to run a series of academic or scholarly collaboration. So there are several initiatives and several our activities that has been carried out. And with the support with quite a lot of research institute in China, and also from my own university, Wuhan University, which is a leading university on journalism and communication in China. We, within these 2 years, have successfully organized the 2 sessions of the Global Communication and Sustainable Development International Summer School. And we also ran international academic workshop on global communication and sustainable development. We developed a Green Earth communication brand for international communication on sustainable development. And we have already set up the database and cultivate our Baby Earth AI. We also have run the social media metrics across domestic and international media platforms. So a few introduction about our summer school. This summer school, we organized with the help of international scholars. I sincerely welcome all these scholars that in AMIC from other Asian countries can join us, provide us help on enlarging our teaching team. This summer school, we aim to provide this platform for the young scholars to understand how to develop communication skills for the collaborative development for Asian countries with rich cross-culture experience. 2024, we organized our summer school. One of the field study for them is to visit the factory, the new energy car manufacturing factory, clean energy and responsible production as one of the SDG goal. And during this time, participants visited our local Dongfeng auto factory, and the engineers, they explained the zero emission technology to the students, and also students raises questions about the battery and about the carbon emission issues of the factory to the engineers. They use this experience in their reporting assignment after the visit. And 2025, this year, the summer school organized one culture tour to learn the evolution of the character, Chinese character, water, 水, across 5 script styles. In this way, they got a chance to understand the philosophy on nature in Chinese culture and share the same experience and the same thinking on how Asian countries think about the protection of our natural resources. So this approach deepened international youth's understanding of our own nature through our traditional culture, and they got a chance to practice to understand the philosophy. And it's also a very good example of our summer school's intercultural communication. And they got a chance to visit the East Lake, one of the largest inland lake in China, and also to understand what people have done to protect the East Lake while developing the economy around the area. They also got a chance to visit the NGOs, one of the largest environment protection NGO in China along Yangtze River. Also, this is the mother river of China. And they got to visit the HICC, that is the Chinese International Communication Center of the area, to see how the reporters in China develop the international communication. And they also got the chance to meet with the editors and the reporter to share their stories, that how they film and also how they create good stories for Asian countries. After the summer school, we have seen the students learned skills, of course, but also they deepened their understanding of a good report for Asian countries. Some of them contributed to the local reports after this visit. I just give you 2 examples. One is English Weekly in China. We help them to develop this story, Exchange for a Change. And it's really very influential for not just the students, but also for the reporters to understand what a journalism and communication school can do when we gather the international students. And on the right side is our student from Fiji. He wrote a story after the visit to our summer school in Fiji's largest national newspaper, Fiji Sun, about the digital evolution in archiving. It's also one way to use the technology to protect the cultural heritage in China. And he bring these thoughts after the summer school back to Fiji, and also calls people's attention to use high technology to protect the cultural inheritance in Fiji. It is a good chance to give this talk and also to welcome all our friends in the AMIC conference to join us in 2026.
Yeah, okay. So just the project is now we are in the process of setting up a website, and she's also got some money to pay the students who attend this summer school to write SDG stories. And I'm negotiating with one of the international the news agencies, IDN In-Depth News or IPS news agency to carry those stories as joint stories with the global Sustainable Communication Network, NGO, and the news agency. This national. Okay, so we this time we got we had this last summer school. We had about 7 students from Uzbekistan, another 7 from Vietnam, a Pakistani, Mexican, a German, and there were a couple of Fijian. There was a Sri Lankan who dropped out at the last moment. So next year we are inviting. We haven't had Indian, and we are very keen to have Indian students to join this summer school next year. So hopefully we can. So what we are trying to do is to develop a network of young people writing about SDG stories from the grassroots. And we feel that would be a way to get over this adversarial culture we have created with this watchdog journalism theories. We need a more journalism culture promoting more cooperation and harmony in the society. Some may say this is a Chinese way of communication, but my view is other communication theories have created conflict. So why don't we try this now and see if it works better? So next speaker, I will bring Asoka into it. Asoka has been involved with AMIC for a long. Yeah, and KG Suresh will come after that to wrap up our session. So Asoka has been involved with AMIC for a long time, and he's a journalist, media manager, and also lectures part-time at a number of universities in Colombo. So I brought in Asoka here because Sri Lanka has had a close relationship with China. And when it came to 2022 crisis, there was a fake story which was spread all around the world, and Indian media was one of the big culprits in spreading that this was a Chinese debt trap Sri Lanka has got into, when a real debt trap is the ISBs, international sovereign bonds, is 47% Sri Lankan exposure. To China, it was only 10%. To Japan, it was 11%, more than China. So maybe Asoka can take up how China has been reported in Sri Lanka.
Thank you, AMIC, for giving this opportunity. Thank you, Karlinga. I will make it very short. Being a TV presenter, I would like to do stories or narrate stories. India-China relations and India-China communications and the mistrust that is building and the mistrust that the others could see. In a world where many-to-many communication is prevalent, and in a time that AI-based stories are spreading fast, it's important to understand third person's point of view. Now, how Sri Lanka would see India, how Sri Lanka would see China. That's an interesting area to look at when you are looking at the big picture of India-China communications. Let me give you 2 stories. One in Sri Lanka, in 2008, we started building a port in a natural port was developed with the aid of China. This port is popularly known as Hambantota International Port. In this port construction work, the funds were coming from China, and there were many Chinese nationals involved in the construction work. In one of the political talk shows that I am the adjudicator, where two or more political opponents debate on live television, I happen to be the adjudicator of the show. An opposition political party representative, a very senior representative who happened to be former Minister of Foreign Affairs, stated that China is bringing Chinese prisoners to Sri Lanka for this construction. Now, this was a bombshell. If this is factually correct, it's well and good. If it is not, as a broadcast station, there were a lot of stakes that we had to take. I didn't know whether this was true or false. But being the adjudicator, it is my responsibility to ensure that the company is not sued. I represent the broadcasting company. So, there are many who has experience in television broadcasting and hosting television shows. So we are wired, and I told the producer that I need a commercial break. So commercial breaks really helps in this sort of situations. And then I quickly went out and took a telephone call to a sitting cabinet minister, a person whom I can rely. And I asked this question: is Chinese prisoners are working in the harbor, in Hambantota harbor? The first question he asked from me was, who told you? I said, I'm on television, I'm on live television, and this person states this. I told him, I have only 30 seconds, tell me yes or no. He said yes, but he said, Chinese have bought the prisoners, but they were kept in a barge in international waters, and when required, they were taken into the construction work and taken back. So technically, they were not in Sri Lanka. But this debate was during a presidential election campaign. What I'm trying to say is, this sort of information, this sort of stories has major impact on the community at large, to the general public. And then let me give you another example. In 2005, Sri Lanka adopted a regulation by the Ministry of Finance. Mind you, it is not Ministry of Mass Media, it is not the Department of Government Information, it is the Ministry of Finance. Adopted a regulation which said content coming from India, it was worded in a manner that if the content, television content, radio content, advertising content, or film content that is coming to Sri Lanka should be taxed at a very high bracket. In 2005, now it is 2025. 20 years down, still this regulation is on. If Sri Lankan television shows content in Bollywood, Hindi content, we have to pay high taxes. Now, the opinion leaders who proposed this were stating that this is to reduce Indian content exposure to Sri Lankans. That was largely an analog world at that point in television content. But even in 2025, all television channels pay heavy taxes for Hindi content to be broadcast. Now, the bottom line is the mistrust that Indian content will have a negative impact on Sri Lankan public. That was the narrative that was building. My argument is India, China, and to third parties, it is not India, China, it is China versus somebody else, India versus somebody else, and they are fear-mongering. So this is a situation where we face on a day-in, day-out basis. Machine learning has developed to unprecedented levels. In this region, South Indian region, link language is English. It's easy to communicate, not that it is any specific greatness or any specific, I would say, quality, but historically, in South Asian region, we use English very easily as a common language. But when it comes to communication with China, there is no link language. But interestingly, such languages, the barrier bridging tools through machine learning has emerged. Why not utilize that opportunity where translations are not a magic anymore? In this world, we can dub content with lip syncs within 1 second. The softwares are developed to that level. To sum up, I would say India, China, two big players in the region. It has natural impact on all the other countries in the region and surrounding region. So it's important to understand India-China communications and India-China communications with others. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. Now, Professor Suresh, you are still online?
Yeah, I'm very much online.
Hello.
Hello. Yes, Professor Kalinga, I can hear you.
If Professor Suresh? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good. I wasn't sure if you were going to come or not.
Yeah, I was there from the word go from 1:30.
Okay, thanks very much for joining in. And
Yes.
so we'll give you the floor now to wrap up everything for your comments as the Vice Chair of the Indian Communication Congress and also now the new Director of Habitat Center in Delhi. So over to you, Professor Suresh.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Kalinga. I hope I am audible. Am I audible?
Yeah, you're fine. You're coming up.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. It was a pleasure listening to all the speakers from both sides. And our chairman of the Indian Communication Congress, Professor Biplab Loho Chaudhary, has already spoken. So let me just, raise some, though I have already given a recording of my speech, but since there is a paucity of time and it's a little longer than what was expected, let me cut straight to certain points. It's been a very serious discussion, so let me, put it this way. Since you are all in Mumbai, which is the hub of cinema in India, let me, put it in a lighter vein. One of the problems with India-China relation is that, there is a Hindi song which says that तुम अगर मुझको न चाहो तो कोई बात नहीं, तुम किसी और को चाहोगी तो मुश्किल होगा. I have no problems if you don't like me. My problem is if you start liking others. So we have more problem apart from the problem that yes, we are no more communicating the way we ought to be because of the proximity and the suspicion due to the mistrust. Whenever China has relationship with Pakistan, Nepal, and Sri Lanka. So, and of course, other neighboring countries. So certainly it's a cause of concern for India, and it only adds on to the misunderstanding. You see, this is a very ironic relationship we have. I mean, for thousands of years, say, unlike our Western neighbors, with whom right from the word go, we have had, only inimical relationships, hardly even a couple of years of friendly ties. But here is a country with whom we had centuries of fraternal relationship, and only post-independence from the 1960s, we have started having this, very, I would say, adversarial relationship that we both have been having. And I totally agree with Professor Biplab Loho Chaudhary that track 2 won't be and can't be at the cost of track 1. You see, so track 1 has to be proper and in place. Only then track 2 can only strengthen that track 1. So I think as academicians, as intellectuals, we should also be contributing towards making track 1 successful. You see, we are 2 great civilizations. But we have, I was just wondering how from the days of Nalanda, Takshashila, Vikramashila, we have had Chinese scholars. I still remember as a child, I was never taught in my school anything wrong about China till we come to 1962. Till then it was Fahian, Huinsang, Tagore's visits, 3 back-to-back visits to China between 24 and 29, and all those positive things we were told. But then we had Hindi Chini Bhai Bhai till 1962, and then comes the big betrayal, and you know what happens. So then relationship have sought. Then of course we had, a lot of which, Professor Padmarani has already dwelt at length, so I don't want to repeat it, the Galwan and all that, whatever had happened in between the 2 countries over a period of time. But I believe that, that in our, our parents, our grandparents keep telling us that a not so friendly neighbor is better than a person who stays far away but is friendly. So if a neighbor who is less friendlier is a better, option than a friend who is very far away. So I believe that I'm not alluding to any particular country, but I want to only say that we need to have that understanding that you can change your friends. Today you can have, till yesterday you can have Russia as a friend. Today you can have Americans as your friends. You can keep changing your friends, but you can't change your neighbor. Both for India and China, we both are there, whether you accept it or deny it. we are there. We cannot ignore this big fact that you are on our eastern side and we are on your western side. So this big truth, that truth we will have to reckon with. So why not we stay together? And there is so much in common, from Buddhism to martial arts to, I can, read out the whole thing, the spiritual journey, to so much of struggles that our people have seen. Then why are we wasting our resources on, fighting each other, arming each other to the teeth? I mean, let us accept one thing, that yes, due to humanitarian grounds, India gave refuge to Tibetan refugees. But the fact also remains, whether one may agree or disagree, the fact also remains that, India has not India has not accepted the independent Tibetan state. It continues that the Tibetan Autonomous Region is an integral part of China, and that India has, stuck to that stand despite all provocations, despite China claiming parts of Arunachal Pradesh, despite calling Arunachal Pradesh as southern China. India could also have retaliated by saying we also don't recognize, your seizing seizure of power in Tibet. But then India never did that because of long-term relationships. Yes, the Tibetans with whom we share a lot of things in common, and they are now based out of Dharamshala in Delhi. All over the country you have Tibetans today, and we don't see them as different, from us. They have also accepted, they speak in Hindi, they speak in local language. They have become part and parcel. So, but at the same time, that does not make us, we don't succumb to any pressure. We maintain our independent, foreign policy. So I think it is also important that we also respect the mutual concerns. That's also very important. Now, coming straight to because there is a paucity of time, to the people-to-people relationships. You see, and many important, I saw Professor Wang also giving some very concrete suggestions. But you see, we need to do it at the academic level also, because this, I believe, is an academic conference. Can we encourage our PhD scholars to do studies in Chinese media to begin with? Can we encourage them to study the different parts of media, different aspects of media in China, and the Chinese scholars can study the different aspect of media in India? Indian media is not one and the same. India has got English media, India has got language media, and every language media has got its own identity. It's a diverse, vast area. So I think that both scholars from both countries should start studying them. There should be more academic exchanges, because it is in the classrooms that perceptions are formed. Let us not forget that. What are the perception? Look at the common perception, and I'm sorry to say, despite everything good being talked about in the textbooks, it's not just textbooks, it's about perception. And yes, social media and the so-called mainstream media also plays a very important role in building perceptions. And the perceptions about each other are not good. You don't, even today, despite the fact that Russia may be arming Pakistan on some extent, we may be having some difference of opinion. The moment for the common Indian, if you take the word Russia, they say the immediate thing is a friend. That is the word that comes to your mind. Drushba, dosti, we are friends. Why don't we have that kind of a perception about each other? And, it's a very, very, I have been able to, because I had visited China in 2014 for almost 10 to 15 days, and I have traveled across China. Of course, the officials were all very goody. But then you try to scratch the average Chinese. If you look at the perception about India is not a very, very great perception. They look at us as very pure, very feudal, with deep, dire poverty, dirt, and, unclean, and all that perceptions are there. And Chinese also, the common Indian perception is that, they eat everything. A largely vegetarian country like India with a large vegetarian population looks at with, oh, they can eat snakes, they can eat that. Because our media is not telling good stories about each other. It is very important that now we are in the age of visual storytelling. Our younger generation should be, on both sides. It should happen on both sides. It cannot be unilateral. It has to be bilateral. And we should make a resolve that let us begin with academics. Let our media students, somewhere, the Chinese proverb is there, that which says that a journey of 1,000 miles should begin with the first step. So let this first step be taken by us in media academia. And let Professor Wang and the other professor who is trying an Asian, experimenting with that Asian students, I think that yes, we should be. There are Confucius centers all over the world, Swami Vivekananda centers, Mahatma Gandhi centers all over the world. We can leverage these institutions and there are a lot of, I have met at international Hindi conferences, a lot of scholars in Hindi in China. In fact, there's a lot of Chinese scholars in Hindi, and I'm sure they are there in other languages also. And similarly, in India also, you have a lot of Indians who are studying Chinese. But then are we converting that into a goodwill? That is what. Or is it only because we have trade ties? So, we need interpreters and translators. Is it a very commercial kind of a thing? Or is it much more than at the people to people? Only because we have trade in Shanghai, so we need Chinese interpreters. Or is it that they have to come to Mumbai, so they need Hindi interpreters? That should not be a very limited kind of an objective. My view is that, that this people-to-people relationship can certainly improve. But having said that, the precondition is certainly that, and I'm really glad that this, and I must thank Mr. Donald Trump for this, he, if not for anything, he deserves a Nobel Prize for this, that he has been after this Nobel Prize for a long time. So he should at least at least for the temporarily, he brought us together, we attended the summit, our prime minister met their president, we all were together. So I think that for that, not for, what he called bringing up a ceasefire between India and Pakistan, but rather I think that this breaking the ice between India and China, because his tariffs, and that was not his initiative, but he just imposed tariffs on us and we decided to go with the, Chinese and other BRICS nations. So I think that, that at least was the beginning of a meltdown and a thaw in relationships. And I think that we should take it forward, we should carry it forward, not just as a temporary knee-jerk response to the tariffs, but as a long-term assessment that how we can build on it, we can take it further. And once the bilateral relations improve, we as academicians should not be just mute spectators. We should be proactive. And I totally am in favor of the initiatives being taken by Professor Kalinga. He has been working on this Buddhist model of communication, the Asian model of communication. His concern for the, for Asia, its outlook, its thought process is simply, awesome, appreciable. And he has brought about a narrative, and I keep mentioning that in all my lectures across the country, that it has become a global phenomenon. And when I talk about it, I talk about it in the context of the Indian knowledge system we are now imparting under the national education policy. And we say that, why not an Indian model of communication, like the Buddhist model he has talked about. We will have certainly many models of communication in India, given its diversity. We cannot have a single track model of communication, but certainly it has ignited that, triggered that process. And I'm grateful to Professor Kalinga for that. And I'm sure that this brainstorming at this conference, at the 31st annual conference of AMIC, is certainly going to, this discussion should take concrete steps in the coming days, in the days to come. And this would not be just, some kind of a hallucination or, sitting and dreaming. It should not be, let's make these dreams true. We have a lot of potential, and I'm sure that our people would immensely benefit. The Chinese entrepreneurs, the Indian businessmen, the Indian students, rather than going and getting, caught and trapped in Ukraine and in different parts of the world, and then the government of India has to spend a fortune to bring them back. Let them go to a neighboring country and let Chinese students come to this country, and together I'm sure we can do a lot of things together. But yes, both the leaderships, I hope they realize it, that yes, there are differences, border differences, which need to be resolved. We cannot forget those. We have concerns, as Professor has already, Padmarani has already talked about. The Brahmaputra, the project is a huge concern. So let us address concerns, and that whatever we are doing is for our people and not to hurt India, or we are doing is not to hurt China. That's not the objective. We are advancing infrastructure on our borders, in the Northeast and other parts. It is for taking the benefits to our people in the Northeast, not to take the troops to the north, to the borders. That's not the objective. So I think that this kind of misunderstanding should slowly be erased over a period of time, and media can play a very critical role. And always, and that is the last point, that while talking about frictions, we should always have in the back of the mind the centuries old relationship, the beautiful relationship that we have shared in the past. We have never had any confrontation till the time the colonial rulers came on our side. Till then, we have had the best of relationships, and everything, whatever has happened, is a result of that. Whatever the Western colonialists did, it is an outcome of that, the border and everything. Till then, we have had the best of relations. I'm sure that when we talk about decolonization, on both sides, this decolonization process would be incomplete without removing the misunderstanding between the two countries. Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor Suresh. I think you wrapped it up very well. And now we have run out of our time, so we'll have to wrap it up soon. Just a small comment from what you just said a while ago. At the moment, I'm trying to I'm putting an article together and hopefully try and get China Daily to publish it, because recently they published an article of mine. China Daily, as you know, is the Communist Party-owned newspaper. Now, the article is about Buddhist tourism to India, because now India has said that they will make it easier for Chinese tourists to come here to India. Because I have been scripting some documentaries on Nalanda, Odisha, Buddhist sites here. And doing research, I come across that a lot of Chinese scholars who used to come over the centuries have written about these sites. And Indians know about that, especially Nalanda. I can remember former Vice Chancellor of Nalanda saying to me one day that India wouldn't have known that Nalanda existed if not for the writings of Sun Tsang, who spent 13 years in Nalanda, went back to China and translated the scripts into Chinese, and that's how Buddhism spread in China. So now I'm putting that history together about the role of Chinese scholars in promoting Indian, even letting Indians know about their own history. And it will be good for the young Chinese to come and visit these places and know about these ancient links. And for Indian tourists to go there, I have been visiting Buddhist places in China in the last couple of years. And there's one place called Xiangyang, about 2 hours from high-speed train from Wuhan. It's exactly like the Ajanta caves. The only difference is Ajanta caves are paintings and these caves are Buddhist sculptures. But the architecture is exactly the same. I'm sure that's directly in Ajanta caves. And I go to Buddhist temples, you see the Indian influence in those Buddhist temples.
And they mention it there.
Hmm?
They mention it there also.
Yeah.
I've seen it. in all these Buddhist sites, it is specifically mentioned also that these influences came from India.
Yeah, China admits it. In fact, I attended the World Fellowship of Buddhist Conference. First time China hosted it in 2014 in Xi'an. And governor of Shan province talked about how Sun brought, Shanxi province governor, brought Buddhism to India, to China. And Buddhism has been part and parcel of Chinese culture for 1,800 years. And he mentioned there's over 200 million Buddhists in China. And he just stopped short of saying China is the world's biggest Buddhist country. But he acknowledged that, well, we have got all that from India. So I think that could be this history through tourism, could promote some sort of understanding, people-to-people understanding. So I hope I can also play a role in that.
All the best.
China Daily to publish these articles. Okay, so thank you very much. We won't have time for question and answer unless anybody has really want to make a comment or ask a question, but I think we are running out of time. So I think we will continue. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you can shout.
Hello.
There are so many impulses. Okay. Yeah, I like so many impulses I got from all the panelists. That was really inspiring. And I really like this idea, Buddhist tourism. There are so many different sites, holy mountains, in the area where I was studying for a long time in Chengdu, in the north of Chengdu. I would love to know more about this. So a short question, like I love the idea to allow students, Indian students, back to China. I was studying with a lot of exchange students from India in China. Is there any, my question, some lower, some smaller steps to take before allowing students back? I feel it's a big decision to make.
You mean more Indian students going to China?
Yeah, I said
I think that's now, I can remember many years ago, I was in Dali in Yunnan province.
Yeah.
At that university, there were 25 Indian students all studying medicine at the time. This was 20 years ago.
So many, so many.
But now in the mass communication program, even in Wuhan, and I have been to the Chinese, communication university, not many Indians, you can't see Indians there. So that's where we can try and have some exchange, even short-term courses, especially in the communication field. That we'll look into that, and hopefully this process we need to continue. We can have Habitat Center also playing a role in it, hopefully. And then Baptist University in Hong Kong, Xiaoming suggested, and he also gave some very good ideas where we can follow up. So hopefully let's start from here and see. It's very important that people-to-people connections. Now I live in Bangkok. I have been to Bangkok so many times over the last 30 years. And I can remember 30 years ago, people in Thailand were very suspicious of Indians, had very negative perspectives of India. Now there's millions of Indians going every year to Thailand, and they have a different perspective on India, a different attitude to Indians. So that people-to-people, especially tourism, can change a lot of things. And that tourism should not be based on this what you call sex tourism and things like that. It has to be more cultural based tourism. And that is what is happening in Asia. Across Asia, I see Asians are traveling around. and learning about each other's culture through budget airlines, and hostels have expanded right across Asia. So I think we need to continue with these dialogues and exchanges. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining. And
Okay.
I want to just add a point. I have gone through the entire discussion. I have only one point. Such sort of a free discussion is possible in India only. This free discussion is only possible in India, and so I thank AMIC India and also Indian Communication Congress coming together under the great initiative of Dr. Kalingo to start this dialogue. And I think gradually the ice will melt down, because we ultimately belong to the same civilization, where argumentative tradition does not stop anyone to argument, but come to a nirnaya at the end. So I hope that would happen through India-China communication dialogues. Thank you.
okay, thank you very much, everyone. Okay.
Thank you.
There's a small announcement. We have actually two announcements. One announcement is that we are having a book fair or exhibition by various publications. So after the sessions, you can just find time and go to the library, which is down there. And the books are exhibited at the foyer also, where we were having our lunch. The second is the list of presenters. The first one is Shubhrata Subhadarshini. I would request all the presenters to be seated in the first row. And if you have your pen drive, your PPTs, please share it over there to the technical team. Second one is Nidhi Chauhan. Are you there? Nidhi Chauhan. I think she's not there. Dr. Archana Kumari. Is she there? Dr. Archana Kumari? No. MP Asoka Dias. Okay. Padmaja PG. Ayush Pawan Chandiwal. And the moderator, Associate Professor Mausami Bhattacharya. We have 1, 2. Stop the presenters? Yeah. Are we having the tea now? Yeah, you all can have the tea. Yeah, that's what. Yes, yeah. After break, you can. After break, yeah. So I'll take this after the break. Ma'am, you didn't receive it on your WhatsApp or something? The list. WhatsApp I did not receive. It was there in the mail, the link. If I get the WhatsApp, that will actually help me a lot. It's a link, so I have to go to the link, then again. But just try opening it if it can open. No, it's not happening. So if I get it with my WhatsApp, that will actually help. Next here? No, we only have one list.